This meeting is being recorded.
Hey Mary, can you mute your? Sorry, I'm gonna do that. There we go. Okay. Let me do this. This is very hard to do with just one screen. All right, I'll put you over here. Okay, let's get started. Is that? All right. So, hi everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar. We're going to go over the highly anticipated topic of short-term rental regulation update. There's been a lot that's going on in the past couple weeks, couple months, all across Colorado, for the better and for the worse, as as it pertains to short-term rental regulations. So this webinar is to update on everything we know about what's changing, what has changed in lots of different areas. So we're going to have you stay ahead of any tightening legislation. If you own a property in these areas, then you can adjust what you're doing with that property if you need to. And for the markets that are loosening their regulations, we will talk about how you can take advantage of that and be a first mover in those markets, get that lucrative revenue while you can. And for those of you who don't know me, I am a real estate agent. I work for Good Neighbor Realty. We are a short-term rental focused brokerage. We do all sorts of investments and primary home buying and selling, but short-term rentals are our bread and butter. I'd say it's probably like 70% of my sales last year were short-term rentals, so we make sure we stay in the know about regulations because we don't, the worst thing we want is for someone to buy a home that they want to use for a short-term rental and later find out that they cannot rent that because of regulations. So that's what we're trying to avoid. Because we do so many short-term rental sales, we have usually direct tie-ins to county and city legislators so they can give us a heads up when new regulations are coming. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes we learn with the rest of the public, but we at least make sure to stay very up to date and inform our clients in our network whenever we hear new regulations coming down the pipeline. That little bit background of me as an investor. So I bought my first property in 2022 that I house hacked. It was a house in Nevada, lived in the upstairs, rented out the basement as a short-term rental on Airbnb. That was my beginnings into the short-term rental world. And then since then, I've been buying one property every year for the last 4 years. So I have three short-term rentals, all in Arvada, and then one primary residence in Lakewood. And I was able to do that mostly by the tax benefits, getting a huge tax refund every time I had a short-term rental, roll that over to the next down payment, rinse and repeat. This webinar is not about how to scale a rental portfolio, but it is really cool, all the tax stuff. So if you haven't heard about the massive tax refunds you can get with short-term rentals, please email or text me or call me. That's like what you should definitely be knowing as a short-term rental investor. I just got a $300,000 tax write-off on my taxes a couple weeks ago because I bought a short-term rental for $800,000 last year. So that's kind of the just brief glimpse. I won't divert too much on that. But that's me as an investor and a little bit about what Good Neighbor does. But what this webinar is about is what regulations are changing, where are they changing, and how these changes should affect your investment strategy, whether you currently own in these areas or you're looking to buy in these areas. These are what we will be talking about today as far as the different areas. So, places that are tightening their restrictions for short-term rentals are Park County, Teller County, Arapahoe County, and Arvada. So, Park, Teller, Arapahoe, they are getting stricter regulations. Supposedly, some of them are proposed, some of them are passed, but good to stay in the know, even if it's just proposed. And then with Arvada, they just, as of this morning, released new regulations coming out. Nothing crazy, but really it does come down to increased enforcement in Arvada. So I'll talk about that. On the other hand, we have some areas that have loosened their regulations, which we always love to see. These are areas like incorporated fair play, incorporated Alma, and this is the hottest topic right now is unincorporated Jefferson County, which I will talk about. First, I need to tell you about how to figure out incorporated versus unincorporated areas. For an incorporated area, this means the properties in that area default to city regulations. So Arvada is a city, Denver's a city, they are all incorporated areas. Um, yes, I will be sharing this recording out after. Um, and if you guys have questions, just put them in the chat or save them till the end. I'll be doing a Q&A at the end of this, so I'll get to all your questions then. But so an incorporated area means they have city regulations. So the properties in that area default to city regulations. In an unincorporated area, the properties default to county regulations. For example, Arvada is in Jefferson County, but Arvada is an incorporated area, city of Arvada. So properties in the incorporated area of Arvada will default to Arvada short-term rental regulations. If you are outside of those areas, or in Jefferson County, but like in Evergreen or in Morrison, those places are not incorporated, so they will default to unincorporated Jefferson County short-term rental regulations. The way to find out where incorporated areas are or not is by using Google Maps. Google Maps for the win, because whenever you type in a town, Google will show you the incorporated boundaries. So Nevada is crazy. Their boundaries. This, so everything in the red is City of Nevada. They default to City of Nevada short-term rental regulations. Everything outside of the red, even though it might have an Arvada address, they're going to default to unincorporated Jefferson County regulations. So like all of this area here will have an Arvada address, but will not follow City of Arvada regulations. If there's an HOA, that's like first order of priority is HOA regulations come first, then city, then county. Unless you're not in the city boundaries, and then you don't default to the city. Um, so that's example with Arvada. Fairplay is another example. So the city of Fairplay is tiny. If you zoom out, like here's Alma up here, Breckenridge up here. All of this area around here, these all have Fairplay addresses. So you cannot go by an address. You have to go by where that is within that town. So all of this defaults to Park County regulations. If you have a property in these boundaries, then you default to City of Fairplay regulations. This is why this is why we specialize in short-term rentals because it's very hard to be an agent that doesn't specialize in short-term rentals and try to sell short-term rentals because you can get in trouble very quickly with advising people erroneously. So just wanted to explain how to kind of see incorporated versus unincorporated because that's going to deal with what I'm going to be talking about today. And then if you have questions about a specific property, a specific town or area or whatever, you can ask in the Q&A or feel free to text me or set up a meeting with me after and I can go over lots of other areas besides just these. Okay, let's talk about unincorporated Park County first. If you have a property in Park County or have short-term rental services in Park County, I'm sure you've heard of this, but Park County has proposed a draft ordinance to revise their short-term rental regulations. And the biggest thing that people are upset about is that they are proposing to limit the number of short-term rentals per subdivision. Existing licenses, existing licensed short-term rentals will be grandfathered in, which is great. They weren't proposing that in the last one, in their last revision, but their caps that they have proposed for each subdivision is ridiculous. Like Valley of the Sun is a huge subdivision just west of Fairplay where it's a really big second home market, vacation rental market. There's probably well over 100, if not hundreds, of short-term rentals in that subdivision. They're proposing 10 licenses for that entire vacation rental subdivision. And the licensed rentals will be grandfathered in, but say there's like 200 licenses that are grandfathered in, you're looking at a wait list of decades until a new property can get a new license if they're not going to be grandfathered in. So they're just kind of crazy about the caps. So hopefully that doesn't pass. But the rest of it is mostly increasing enforcement of safety standards, of the occupancy count, or the occupancy rules for how much you can advertise, how many guests you can advertise can sleep at your property. And then they're requiring a 24-hour contact who lives within 1 hour of the property. All of this is I'm in favor of. Usually when you have better enforcement of safety standards and trash removal, things like that, your neighbors complain less, and we always love when neighbors complain less. So I'm cool with this. And then they're proposing to increase their short-term rental licensing and renewal fees, which again is fine. It's nothing crazy, but if that's what they need to do to fund their short-term rental department, increasing fees is fine. Just don't ban short-term rentals or limit them excessively. Over here, I have linked the meeting schedule. So they're meeting, I guess I have it down here, tonight at 6:30 p.m. and the 23rd at 6:30 p.m. and then a couple others as well. They're going to vote on the ordinance early May. I forget the exact date, but I'll send out this recording and then also the presentation so you can click on these links and see all of the draft ordinance, all of the rules they're proposing, and then also the meeting schedule. So, a couple actions to take. Firstly, and most importantly, if you are operating an unlicensed short-term rental in Park County, get your license immediately because then you'd be grandfathered in if they do pass these rules. If you're operating in Park County without a license and they pass these rules, you're probably going to get shut down after. So get your license. If you are operating a short-term rental in Park County and advertising for more guests than your license allows, use caution. There's currently a lot of scrutiny and oversight with short-term rentals by Park County right now. So historically, they have not enforced occupancy limits. So if you're licensed for 6 people and you're advertising to 10 people, Park County has not cared at all. But they might be cracking down more just because it's a lot of attention right now being put on short-term rentals. So you might want to bring back your occupancy count to your licensed amount, at least until the dust kind of settles. So just a heads up there. And then even if you don't own in Park County, but if you have a short-term rental adjacent business or you might want to buy in Park County, please attend these Zoom hearings to stay informed, but also to voice your opinion as well. And there's an email address in these short-term rental web pages here that I linked that you can email to voice your opinion as well if you cannot attend the meeting. So that's Park County updates. Now we will talk about Teller County. For those of you who don't know, Teller County is the area west of Colorado Springs that is mostly like Woodland Park, Divide, Florissant, Cripple Creek area. They currently have no short-term rental regulations, so you can do whatever you want. You don't need a license at all. There's no enforcement, no fees, nothing. They are proposing to implement some sort of regulations. I called them this morning to get an update, and they just said, we're working on it. We don't know what it's going to be or when it's going to be out, but we're trying to put some sort of regulations out there. What I've kind of heard is that they might limit the number of non-owner occupied short-term rentals to 3 per person, which is fine. Most people don't have more than 3 short-term rentals in Teller County. And then I also hear a rumor that they might place a cap on the number of non-owner occupied short-term rentals. I don't know what that cap will be. but that's what I've heard. I have not heard that they are going to limit short-term rentals to only primary residences. That kind of was a rumor like a year or two ago, but I don't think that's going to be happening anymore, which is awesome. So that's the latest on Teller. They don't know what they're doing, so I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing something. That's all I know. Arapahoe County. I will show you where this one is. This is close to Denver. The, it's huge, but the part we really care about is like this part and the part in like Englewood and Littleton. They default to other rules, but there's a little part in Denver, like this part, like this part, and this part that has a Denver address, but it's in Arapahoe County. Historically, you've been able to buy there as an investor, and that's been allowed. They're changing the rules now. So they have a new rule that they will only allow primary residence short-term rentals. Existing short-term rental owners who have an investment property that don't live at their short-term rental can apply for a license within 60 days after adoption of the new regulations to be grandfathered in. So they're voting on April 28th. And so it is thought that that's going to be approved. So April 28th, then existing owners have 60 days to apply for the license under the new regulations and get grandfathered in. After that, they will have a very strict primary residence only rule for unincorporated Arapahoe County. So unincorporated Arapahoe County is going to be off limits starting April 28th to new investors there. So that's an update there. So if you have a place in Arapahoe County, get licensed or apply for this grandfathered in situation. Okay, Arvada. We have lots of clients with short-term rentals in Arvada. I have three in Arvada, so I've been very trying to, yeah, understand what's going on here. We just got an email today with the official new changes. As of May 1st, this is what's going to go into effect. There are new application requirements, which most of them are fine. So one is that you must have a maintenance plan for your trash collection, your snow removal, and your lawn care. That's fine. Cool. You can do that. You have to submit a floor plan of the areas that are going to be rented. Not a big deal. I think it says you can hand draw your floor plan if you need to. So that's not a showstopper by any means. You have to notify your neighbors that you're going to be short-term renting. I think it said any neighbor that you share a lot line with, so back neighbors, side neighbors. You have to send them a letter saying you will be short-term renting their property. They can't object from what I read. Like it's just informing them that you'll be renting. Here's contact information of who you can call if there's an issue, that kind of thing. The most annoying thing is that Arvada is now going to require you as of May 1st to complete an inspection. She'll have to get a licensed home inspector to complete this Arvada inspection. I linked this here. It's pretty standard, like just making sure basically it's a safe home. It's not making sure that your HVAC is up to date and like your roof doesn't have hail damage like a normal home inspection report. It just is basically saying, is there a fire extinguisher? Are there carbon monoxide alarms? Is is it just an inhabitable space? Like, are there locks on the bathroom doors? Like, kind of things like that. Like, is it making sure it's not like a campsite or something? So this is a checklist have that they will be implementing for new short-term rentals. And if you have an existing short-term rental in Arvada, when you go to renew your permit, you'll have to then follow these new checklists and guidelines. As far as ownership goes, they're saying that only a person who owns at least 20% of a property can hold a license. Previously, you could have a long-term tenant in a portion of the house and they could hold the license. I think this is what they're saying. They could hold a license and get a license for like an ADU or something like that. But they're saying, no, you can't do that anymore. It has to be the owner of the property or one of the owners of the property that holds the license, which is fine. They're still saying the approval process takes like 10 days, so it's not anything crazy. Before, it was like a week that it would take. I mean, maybe now it's 2 weeks that it's going to take to get the license. So Nevada is still being very short-term rental friendly, very business friendly. They're just making things a little bit more safe um, for the guests, which is fine. Just a little bit more headache for owners of Nevada. I linked all the stuff you need to know here. It's all on Arvada's website, and that goes into effect May 1st. So if you're under contract on a property, um, and you're closing before that, you could um, apply before May 1st and not have to do all this. But as of May 1st, that goes into effect. Other thing that goes into effect for Arvada is this new hotline. This is already in effect. This isn't May 1st. So Arvada added a neighbor hotline where neighbors can call or text to complain about short-term rental guests. The Arvada hotline people will then call and text you, whoever's on the permit, whatever host's number is on the permit, they will call and text you saying, hey, your neighbor complained about XYZ. You have 1 hour to address that complaint. If that complaint is not resolved within an hour, you're at risk of having your license suspended. I don't know if that hour applies to like middle of the night. Like if someone calls me at 2 a.m., I'm not going to answer it. So, um, I don't know logistically how that's going to work out, but this is the hotline number. So I suggest if you have a place in Arvada, if you have a short-term rental in Arvada, add this number to your contacts and say this is your Arvada short-term rental emergency hotline. Like answer your phone if this number calls you. Um, my coworker, Liv and Jonathan, I don't know if any of you work with them, but they have a place in Nevada. One of their short-term rental guests, I think, was parked like on the sidewalk or something. And so one of their neighbors called the hotline. The hotline called them, say, hey, your guest is parked illegally or being a nuisance or whatever. And they just message the guest and say, hey, please move your car. And then they did. And then it was resolved. So it's not always a big deal. It's just you gotta make sure you answer your phone when they call you. And then if you're not local, if you're out of state or you live not in a Denver metro, maybe just give your cleaner or a handyman, someone who can be on site, a heads up that you might need them to go to the house on short notice if there is a guest complaint. Just try to have someone who's like a local contact or a family member or something like that in case you just don't want to risk having your license suspended if you can't get someone out there in an hour if you need someone on site to address a complaint of some sort. Uh, I think that's all with Arvada. Yeah. Okay, incorporated fair play. This is the little bit of fair play that I showed you earlier as an example of an incorporated area. They have licenses available. Prior, I don't know how long ago, they had no licenses available, but they have about 10 licenses available. So if you wanted to buy in this little area of downtown Fairplay, you can. There's plenty of licenses available. I just sold a place in downtown Fairplay last month, and there's like no competition at all. Like all the competition is really bad, like cell phone photos, like gross furniture, no hot tub. And so my clients are gonna hire a designer, have a hot tub, that kind of thing, and just like blow it out of the water. So lots of opportunity in incorporated fair play if anyone wants to buy in fair play. And then kind of all the Park County craziness with the caps and stuff, that wouldn't apply to you here. This is straightforward, 10 license left, that kind of thing. They don't follow the Park County um regulations. Okay, similarly, or kind of close, incorporated Alma. So this is incorporated Alma is just this little part of Alma plus this side nub here. They la late last year increased their maximum short-term rental amount from 10 licenses to 17 licenses. However, they just issued their last license like a couple of weeks ago. So there's not any licenses available, but the wait list is short because they just issued the last license. However, an owner must own the property for 18 months prior to applying for a short-term rental permit. So this isn't practical for a lot of investors, but if you are set on being an Alma, you might be able to get a license at some point. Just wanted to put that out there because they did increase the licenses, but it's still the 18-month requirement makes it not feasible for a lot of people, but wanted to just give you the information. Okay, and now done with all the bad news of people cracking down on short-term rentals, Jefferson County just eased the short-term rental restrictions, which we've been waiting for years because let me show you unincorporated Jefferson County so everyone knows how good it is. All right, so this is all of Jefferson County. It's huge. It includes most of the west suburbs like Arvada, Wheat Ridge, Lakewood, good chunk of Littleton, but then it also includes the foothills, like the closest foothills to Denver. So it includes this whole I-70 corridor. It goes all the way up almost like to Black Hawk, Coal Creek Canyon, um, and then Evergreen. It includes Red Rocks area, like Red Rocks is right here, and then all the way down like Conifer, Pine, all the way down, like way down here. If you know Denver, you'll know, like Denver area, you'll know that this area, the foothills, guests love to stay here, but there's nowhere for them to stay because typically this hasn't been short-term rental friendly. But I-70 corridor, just up to Floyd Hill, Evergreen's huge wedding destination. Red Rocks, obviously, people coming from all over the world to stay near Red Rocks. And then along 285, there's a lot of demand as well. Parts of Golden are now short-term rental friendly. Not downtown Golden, but like this area-ish of Golden has a Golden address, is unincorporated Jeffco. So all of this just became short-term rental friendly. It is an absolute gold mine. If some of you follow me on Instagram, I just put a three-part series about Jeffco and why it's so great to invest in right now, and I'll kind of get into that. But just so you know what I'm talking about, that's the area I'm talking about, just like this unincorporated part. So basically like the green and beige part kind of Jeffco, not the cities. Okay. Previously, before these new regulations came out in March, short-term rentals were allowed in Jefferson County, but it was a very subjective approval process. First of all, you had to be over an acre. So a lot of like the places near Evergreen Lake and near Golden didn't qualify because they weren't over an acre. And then you had to have a public hearing at the Jefferson County Courthouse in front of a board to pitch your case as to why you deserve a short-term rental license. Your neighbors were encouraged to attend and they could shoot down your license, basically like a trial of why you deserve a short-term rental license. The board was notoriously anti-short-term rentals, so even if you followed all the rules to get a license, they could still deny your license. So up until now, we were not encouraging our clients to buy in Jefferson County for the last couple of years because it was just a very subjective review process. So it's just so risky to buy there. However, that all just changed like a month ago. So first of all, they removed the 1 acre requirement. And so now you can be on a smaller lot and still get a license, and you do not need a public hearing. The licensing criteria is very objective now, and it takes just about 2 to 3 weeks to get approved. And so now we can feel confident selling in Jefferson County because we know the rules. It's very cut and dry. If you do XYZ, you will get a permit. And that's what we needed to know in order to be confident in recommending Jefferson County as a place to invest. So these are the requirements in general of how to get a short-term rental. So first of all, you must be over 750 feet away from another licensed short-term rental. There is a cap. So Jefferson County is divided into fire districts. there is a cap of 1% of the housing stock can be given out as short-term rentals. So if there's 2,000 properties in a certain fire district, there will be 20, yeah, 20 short-term rental licenses given out for that fire district. Right now, Jeffco has said that there are licenses available in all fire districts right now, but eventually they'll start getting capped out. If your property is on a private road, you must get a civil engineer to sign off on the county road, to sign off that the private road meets county road standards. So this is kind of a gamble. Yeah, you can't verify with your eyes. Like you need to have someone come in and sign off, and it's like 1,000, 1,200 bucks to have a civil engineer come out and write you a letter. And if it's not conforming to county road standards, kind of out of luck because usually it means the road isn't wide enough or it's too steep. And widening a road or regrading a road is very expensive. You need a defensible space permit from a local fire department. A defensible space permit means that the tree density on the home is sufficiently wildfire resistant. So it means, yeah, sometimes you have to cut down trees to get that defensible space permit. You have to do that. As far as occupancy goes, you can have 2 people per legal bedroom, up to 10 people. Even if you have a 6 bedroom, you cannot have 12 people. 10 people is the max. And like I said, the approval process takes 1 to 2 weeks once you submit all your documentation. Jefferson County website does not currently have a way to vet this part of the short-term rental requirements, but one of my coworkers came from tech and is really good with apps and stuff, so he built us a tool to that we can verify this because we know where all the short-term rentals currently are in Jefferson County and their coordinates, so we just have this map tool now. We can't give it out to the public because it's a little bit buggy and we don't want the liability. But if you have an address you're curious about, whether you own the property or whether you're looking to buy a property, just send me the address and I can verify whether it meets these eligibility criteria. Um, okay, those are the rules. And now I just want to make a pitch of why Jeffco is such a good place to invest right now. The main reason why is because up until now, it was really hard to get a license. Like I said, you had to go through a public hearing process and do a lot of work to get the license. Some people were able to get that license, but there was a huge barrier to entry. And so the short-term rentals that are licensed in short-term in Jefferson County right now are pretty bad. So the competition is really easy to beat. There is so much guest demand to stay in these areas and there's no good supply. So if you just have a professional designer and a hot tub, you're gonna make 6 figures, like no question. As a rule of thumb, what I'm seeing, a home with a purchase price, like in today's market of 700, 900,000 can gross somewhere between 110 and 170. These are 2 examples from AirDNA of homes that I suspect are between 700 and 900. One of them's doing 180, one of them's doing 143, and they're like not good. Like this one's good. They're making 180, but this one, like look at the photos, and they're making 143. Like that's crazy. If you kind of go on the more luxury end, so purchase price from 900 to 1.5 million, we're seeing revenue between 180 and 225. So this is my boss's house, Chantal and Peter. Some of you know them. They own this property together, the bridge house, iconic, literally built on a bridge. It does not have a hot tub. It only sleeps 6 guests because they only have a 3 bedroom septic system, so they can only sleep 6 guests. And they do over $200,000. The house is beautiful inside, a professional designer, professional photos, but no hot tub and sleep 6. They do 203,000. So that just goes to show if you had, and this house is worth like 1.25 million. So if you had another 1.25 million house, obviously it's not going to be on a bridge. But if you had a view and you had design and you had a hot tub and a sauna and you could sleep 8 to 10 guests, easily make 200,000. This house here, really nice house. I don't know whose house this is. I don't think it's one of our clients. Photos are bad, design is okay. The house is really nice. They do 250 and they're just an okay short-term rental. So it's just kind of an example of there's no competition and there's a lot of demand. If you're to prove that point, I encourage you, if you're interested in Jefferson County, go on Airbnb, pretend like you're a guest, go search Evergreen as a place to stay for 6 guests and filter on a hot tub. Say must have a hot tub. There's not a single place for you to stay the entire summer because everything that meets those criteria is booked up and there's just nowhere. There's really not a single thing you can book. But obviously, people want to stay in Evergreen. It's a super cute town, really great wedding destination, and there's just nowhere for them to stay. So if you were to buy an Evergreen and launch for the summer, you can charge whatever you want. People will book your place because there's nowhere else for them to go. That is my pitch on Jeffco. Um, I think that's it for regulation wise. So I'm just gonna, for those of you who don't know or haven't worked with Good Neighbor in the past, like I said earlier, we are Colorado's top short-term rental brokerage. Last year, we sold almost 300 properties, just under $200 million in sales, and we have a team of about 15 or so. So we're a small brokerage doing a lot of sales, just because we're really good at what we do. So we also provide a lot of other resources besides just buying and selling homes like a normal real estate agent. Obviously, I'm sure you can tell I know a lot about short-term rentals. Most agents have no idea about any of this, so definitely we we make sure we know what we're talking about. Um, AirDNA is the software platform that pulls data from Airbnb and Vrbo, and that's how we get a lot of our revenue projection data, so we can give clients logins to AirDNA so they don't have to pay for it themselves. We have a vendor list for really any type of investment property, not just short-term rentals. But whether you are a client or not, please ask me if you need any vendor recommendations, whether they're designers, photographers, CPAs, real estate attorney, cost segregation companies, handymen, any contractor of any sort, anywhere in Colorado. I have people that I've vetted personally, and my clients I've vetted that we can happy to refer out people that we know are going to do a good job. We have networking events like this and educational events like this, whether they're webinars or in person. You all should be on email lists now if you weren't already, so you can get notifications when we have new events coming up. We have like 5 to 10 every 5 to 8 every month. Legislation guides, yeah, obviously we keep on top of legislation and regulations so we can weigh in on any questions you have about any place in Colorado on what the regulations are. For our clients who buy with us, I help you set up your short-term rental as kind of like a consultant, teach you what pricing softwares to use, how to automate messages, how to optimize your Airbnb listing for the algorithms, like, kind of hold your hand along the way, especially for first-time hosts to make sure you're going to be set up for success after you launch the property. And then we do a ton of property analysis for people that are trying to find a short-term rental to buy, underwrite properties all the time. This is a screenshot of one of our pro formas. So if you are interested in buying a property or you just maybe you want to convert an existing long-term or mid-term rental into a short-term rental, please let me know. I'm happy to tell you how that might look from a short-term rental perspective and how the numbers would shake out. We also have quite a few off-market properties, which a lot of these have been emailed out to people on our email list already, so you might have seen these come through. If you are new to the Good Neighbor Network and haven't gotten our emails yet, let me know. I can send you kind of our off-market emails that we've already sent out. But we have quite a few turnkey short-term rentals that come furnished. There's one in Estes Park that is eligible for a short-term rental license. It's this guy here. Bunch in the metro, actually most in the metro. This this is my listing coming up, Grand Junction. Have not emailed this out yet, but it's a pool house in Grand Junction. We listed around 800,000. It grosses 135K. So that's going to be a really exciting listing launching early May, so like 2 weeks. Um, so yeah, let me know if you're interested in any of these off-market properties. And then that is it for the presentation. Now, this is how you can get in touch with Good Neighbor. You can get in touch with me. I mentioned I posted a three-part Jefferson County series about legislation and investing opportunity on my Instagram. So you can go to my Instagram there. And the last three videos I posted were all about Jeffco if you're interested in any of that. And then feel free to text me or email me if you want to ask any questions that are kind of specific to your situation or your property. You don't want to ask in the Q&A, please just text or email me individually, or if you need vendor referrals, or if you want a property valuation, if you're thinking of selling or doing a 1031 exchange. What else can I help you with? Yeah, if you want to book a meeting, you can scan this QR code here and it will go to my calendar. You can book a meeting as well. So I just talked like 45 minutes straight. I will happily open it up to questions once I get this figured out. Okay, let me look at the chat first. Okay, give me 1 second. Into the chat. Okay, where does Boulder County sit in this list? I thought I saw some new things related to the festival. Any news to share? Yeah, Boulder County is a great market to invest. I didn't touch on it in this presentation because it hasn't had new regulations since like 2 years ago, but Boulder County, which is not so unincorporated Boulder County, which is like the rural part of Boulder County, so not city of Boulder, but it's more like Netherland, Allens Park, Lyons, like that area, like Eldora. They allow short-term rentals as a non-primary resident. So you can you can buy there. It has to be zoned correctly, so to be careful. But yeah, then so Sundance Film Festival starting 2027 is relocating from Park City, Utah to Boulder in January, which is a huge opportunity because January is statistically or historically a slow month, but now with Sundance Film Festival coming in January, it's going to turn a slow month into a peak month. Um, and so I know you can kind of move out of your house if you live in Boulder and rent it out for um, Sundance Film Festival. And there's some licenses that are specific to primary residence occupants that you can now get like a festival license to short-term rent your property during the festival. But I don't think that affects investment properties. Like you still have to meet the criteria for an investment property as far as I know. Um, if anyone knows differently, please let me know. But I don't think this festival allows you to like buy more of an investment property besides what was already legal before. Um, I know we're waiting until after, but is the inspection report for Nevada annual or just once when applying for the permit? It's annual. So when you apply, but then also when you renew your permit, you also have to get the inspection based on what the website says. Or based on what I read on the website. It's an annual inspection that you have to submit with your permit renewal application. Oh, someone put a link about Boulder. Okay, cool. Thank you. Do you have any insight onto why Jefferson County made those changes? Yeah, so some background, like 3 years ago, Jefferson County had rules, but they didn't enforce anything. So there was just a ton of people short-term renting their properties, breaking the rules, but there is no repercussions. And so people were fine breaking the rules because there was no punishment. But then there is, and there are very vocal neighbors and residents of Jefferson County who started complaining very vocally to the Jefferson County legislators. And so that forced the legislators to crack down on non-compliant short-term rentals, which was most of the short-term rentals. So we saw a ton of super lucrative short-term rentals get totally shut down starting in like 2023. Um, and then basically that brought to the attention of the officials that like, hey, we have people who want to rent. We don't have a good way to get them to rent because our regulations are strict. So basically, it was a impetus for them to start trying to please both sides. Like, how do we let people short-term rent, but also please or, appease the residents here? And so they've been working on developing these new regulations for quite some time. They finally just released them. But yeah, basically they were at one extreme of not enforcing anything, and then they went to the other extreme of enforcing everything. And now they are went back like into the middle of it. And so that's it's kind of the background that I've gathered over the last couple of years. So there is no tangible legislation guide. This question is, how do we get access to legislation guides? There is no tangible legislation guide because it changes so often, and we don't want to be liable for having outdated information. So if you are interested in any specific area, let me know. I also do no obligation, like 30-minute calls with anyone that wants to talk. Like, you don't have to buy a house with me afterwards. If you just want to kind of tell me your goals for investing, your timeline, and then I can give you a rundown of which areas would meet those goals that allow short-term rentals. Happy to do that if you want to book a time with me, just like 30 minutes, we can kind of give you a one-on-one rundown of where it might make sense for you to invest that's short-term rental friendly. Okay. Those are all the questions in the chat, but I'm happy to answer um any other questions. If you want to
Hi,
unmute yourself
Olivia.
or post in the
I have a
chat.
question.
Yeah.
For Cripple Creek, Teller County, you mentioned there's no STR regulations. Is that in incorporated or unincorporated?
Unincorporated. So yeah, Cripple Creek is a sneaky little incorporated area, like in the town of Cripple Creek. They have rules. So if you go to Google Maps and type in Cripple Creek, that will show you like the little incorporated area. They have rules, and I'm not I can't rattle all of them off the top of my head, but I know that you have to be a certain distance away from another short-term rental. There's other like application requirements, but outside of that area of incorporated Cripple Creek is an unincorporated Teller County, and unincorporated Teller County does not have rules currently.
Okay. And then the updates from today, those updates are for incorporated or unincorporated?
Those are for unincorporated Teller. Basically, that's just saying that they're going to implement some rules of some sort at some time, but they don't know what that is or when it will be. So
That's
not
fine.
super
Yeah.
helpful, but just
Yeah.
worth having it stay on your radar in case you have a place down there. But I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. Like if anything, they will follow like what Park County has been doing of just like you need a trash collection plan, you need like a someone to call. They want to make sure they're collecting taxes, like lodging taxes, and
Mhm.
so I think they just want some more oversight, but it doesn't seem like they're gonna crack down too hard.
Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Um, there was one question you said you know all good neighbor or you said you know good neighbor knows where all STRs are in the Colorado by quadrant. Okay, I think I'll message you privately about that unless you want to come on and ask me. Okay. Anything else? Oh, here we go. All right, here we go. I'm getting messed up where my messages are. You said you know or good neighbor knows where all the short-term rentals are in Colorado by quadrant. Does this data come from booking platforms or registered licenses? Um, I don't know what you mean by quadrant. If you want to come off mute or
Can you hear me?
yes.
Hey, Olivia, that's what you said. I wrote it in my notes. You said we have all the short-term rentals by quadrant. So you can take that out. You have a GNR has all short-term rentals in Colorado. So the question, take out quadrant if that's throwing you off,
Okay.
and just focus on where does that data come from? Does that come from licensing information, booking platforms,
Yeah.
AirDNA,
Was I
combination of
talking
all?
about Jefferson County specifically? Because that's where we know where every short-term rental is.
You were,
Oh,
yes.
okay. So yeah, in Jefferson County, yeah, they on their website they have a list of all licensed short-term rentals and their address. So the tool that we have takes each of those addresses and maps it and then can use a measurement tool to see if it's within 750 feet of another property or not. So for Jefferson County, because they have a public access to where the licensed short-term rentals are, that's how we were able to get that data. And then it gets plotted on the map, and then you can use GPS like measurements to measure distances to see where you can rent around there, if that answers your, but not every county has it publicly available where all the licensed short-term rentals are, but Jeffco does.
Right. Thank you.
Um, you're welcome. And then yeah, so we use for our STR analytic data, we use a mixture of AirDNA, but also client data. So there's like 15 to 20 employees at Good Neighbor. We probably between all of us own like 60 short-term rentals in Colorado. So we use our coworker data plus our client data. We have hundreds of clients with hundreds of short-term rentals in Colorado, and we can use that to vet AirDNA data. Most of the top performers on AirDNA are our clients, and so we can vet either our clients or our coworkers' short-term rentals, so we can verify that AirDNA is accurate. And then if there are non-clients who are top performers as well, we'll use them as comps if we think that their data is good. Sometimes AirDNA data is bad, specifically in ski towns, specifically in condos. Like, don't believe ski town condo data, but most of AirDNA is accurate. So we use a mixture of AirDNA and then our like actual data. Um, you talk about rules for homes with a Denver address, but not part of Denver. Yeah, so Denver's an interesting one as well. I didn't talk about Denver because we they haven't changed their rules recently, but the city of Denver spans three different counties. Adams County in the north, Denver County is most of city of Denver, but then and then Arapahoe County in the south. City of Denver does not have short-term rental rules. It is just Denver County. And so if you have a Denver address, but you're in Adams County in the north, you don't like you can buy there, you can invest there. They don't have a primary residence restriction. It's Denver County that has a primary residence restriction and all these other like crazy rules that make Denver very not friendly towards investors. But just because there's a Denver address does not mean that it's follows Denver County rules. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense.
Yes,
And
thank you.
then,
That was what I was asking. It helps.
okay, perfect. Thanks. For unincorporated Jefferson County, are those for non-primary residents? Yeah, so all the rules I talked about with the fire district caps and um, needs to be 750 feet from another short-term rental, those are only for non-primary residence short-term rentals. So an investor wanting to buy a short-term rental. If you live in Jefferson County, like unincorporated Jefferson County, and you want to rent your ADU, you want to rent a basement, those most of those rules don't apply. You still have to apply for a license, but you don't have to have that 750-foot buffer. Um, there's no cap like for a fire district, so it's a lot more lenient with this with the primary residence short-term rental. Yeah, good question. Everything I talked about today was investor like a non-primary resident short-term rental rules. Yeah, good to clarify that. Okay. Last call for questions.
Can I ask a somewhat off-topic question?
Sure.
Just wanted to get your opinion on AirDNA versus Rabu, because I like Rabu because I mean it has a free section to it, and I know with AirDNA you can sign up for a membership and get more tools to access, but just wanted to get your opinion on both.
Yeah, I've never used Rabu for data. Like we just have like my team has the nationwide subscription to like the pro version of AirDNA, so that's just what we've been using. I don't know how Rabu compares. I know Rabu doesn't know legislation at all. Like I get clients being like, "Hey, so this property in Rabu, like, can I go take a look at this because I want to buy it?" And I was like, "Okay, you can't short-term rent there. Like Rabu is projecting this crazy amount of income, but like you cannot short-term rent there." So I honestly don't know. Like I haven't used Rabu. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm gonna wrap it up then, but please reach out to me directly. I put my contact information at the top of the chat. Reach out to me directly if you have other questions and or if you just wanted to have that 30-minute consultation about your situation. Happy to do that as well. But thank you everyone for coming. I hope you learned a lot and will make good decisions based on these regulations. So have a good day and hope to see all you soon. Bye.
Thank you.